Everybody, welcome back to session 2, or welcome if you weren't able to join us last week. We'll give folks another little bit to join us for today's session, where we're actually going to start to take a look at some of the tools. So it does look about as though we have everybody who's been waiting. I am going to go ahead and get started, but again, glad you were able to join us for this session or to join us again. We're going to go right ahead and get started today. Since, like I mentioned, what we are going to do today is cover 3 of the MyTree tools, all of which are accessible online. We'll have some quick demonstrations and how-to information for everybody. But we're also going to talk a little bit about examples for using the results that you'll get from these tools. All of them are focusing on the benefits that we can see for individual trees. So again, just as a reminder, if you were with us last week, or even if you weren't, all of the materials from session 1 and related items, including a link to the video recording, have been posted to the MyTree website. So from the website, you can link to the Academy page, and you'll see all of the items for session 1, including a little exercise we have available. But remember again that each of our tool sessions is intended to be independently accessible. So you aren't required to attend any one session in order to jump in on a later session. But these are all, resources that we will post here that can help answer the questions that you might come across and to help provide some context. So again, we're encouraging everybody to go ahead and use the chat window today for any questions you have. We will try to get to as many of those questions live and during the webinar as we can. We also know that, sometimes if we're moving ahead or if we have several people asking the same question, we might try to actually bring it up live. And we'll try to remain online for 10 or 15 minutes following the webinar. We know that some people will have a hard jump at 2 o'clock, but we'll try to stick around and get to any of those questions that we might have missed. Another reminder that certificates of participation as well as available CEUs will all be provided once the Academy series has completed. We know some of you have checked in on that, and those will all be available when we wrap up in May. So I do have, I'm going to go ahead and hand off to Jason. He's going to break down what it is we're going to take a look at today and remind us a little bit about some of the things that we learned last week that will come into play when we think about the benefits that we're looking to calculate and assess for individual trees. And having said that, I'll be back. Take it away, Jason. Thanks.
Sure.
I thought Dave was talking to us. Sorry.
Yeah, me too. But I think we're good.
I think we're good.
All right. Yeah. So it's great to see we've got look like we were closing in on over 150 people as we get started here. And my job at the top here is just to set the stage for what we're going to do today. This is going to be pretty rapid fire. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the online tools. That's what we're going to cover today, sort of our easiest to use tool, the entry point for the MyTree suite of tools. So the 3 tools we're going to cover are MyTree, MyTree Design, and MyTree Planting. So we'll do quick demos, 10 less than 15-minute demos of each one of those. So we'll roll through those pretty quick, but they're all simple to use. So you'll get to see how that looks. You can follow along if you want, or you can just see how we do it and know that this will be recorded if you need to refer back to it. And then we'll wrap up just comparing those online tools. So at some point, you'll need to make a decision about which tool is right for your application, and we'll try to lead you to some of that decision-making process. But just to reorient us after going through the session last week, the introduction and talking a lot about sort of the science behind the tools. This is our suite of tools. This is the MyTree suite of tools. Hopefully you'll remember that MyTree Eco is our big flagship tool. Then we have our core individual tree tools, which are MyTree Planting and Design. That's what we're going to talk about today. And in coming weeks, we'll go through our other tools, especially those canopy tools, iTree Canopy in week 3 and Landscape in week 4. And then we'll come back to iTree Eco since it's that flagship tool with sort of the most science and most detail when you're entering data in there and using that tool. So again, these are the tools we're going to focus on today, these core individual tree tools of MyTree Planting and Design. And as far as how the tools are related, all of our research, the latest research on ecosystem services of trees, goes into iTree Eco first. So that's where kind of the most detailed science is. That's where we need the most input data, and you get the most variety of results. But all of that feeds into our other tools. So in the case of these individual tree tools that we're going to talk about today, it's sort of a simplification of that iTree Eco and how we get the results from iTree Eco and make them accessible in a web platform that you can get to results in just a few minutes. Whereas when you run an eco project, it takes a little more time to set up the project to enter your data. You actually have to submit the data to our server for processing. So the whole thing is going to take you an hour or two. Or we use something like MyTree, you can get to results in just a couple minutes. So remember that there's a lot that goes on in sort of simplifying down that iTree Eco to make it available in these web-based tools. I put this up last week just to sort of orient you to how the tools relate as far as difficulty and the flexibility of results you're going to get out of them. So again, the tools we're going to focus on today are MyTree Planting and Design. So on the easier end, as far as easy to use, I think MyTree is probably our easiest individual tree tool to use. I think planting's pretty easy and design can be easy depending on how many trees you're going to enter in there. I think Anna and I had a discussion about where to put planting and design in this graph. So after we go through them today, maybe you'll make a decision that design is a little easier to use. And these don't have a ton of flexibility in the results, but you'll see that there are lots of different ways that you can use these. And most of the kind of really creative ways have come from users putting these to work for their own projects. And we never know what those projects are going to be. So some people get really creative in how they put these tools to use. So we'll talk a little bit about some examples of those uses near the end of the session today. So just to remember, the key input data, that field data that goes into iTree Eco, that's going to be things like measuring the DBH of every tree or the species of every tree. Then we measure those crown measurements. So how wide is your crown? How tall is your crown? And that crown base height. So those can be actually pretty difficult measurements for people that are new to tree measurements to collect. So when we talk about sort of simplifying things down for the online tools, minimizing those crown measurements is one of the things that we sort of lose just because it is a hard thing to measure in the field for most people. And things like tree health, building interactions, if you want those energy related ecosystem services estimates, and light availability. So all those things, you'll see they show up in the online tools just like they do in iTree Eco, but lots of times we're kind of simplifying them down so that they're easier to get in there, easier for people that are maybe new to tree measurements to make those as precise measurements as they can of trees in the field. So how might this work? In the case of if you have a tree that looks something like this tree here, where you've got the whole middle of it cut out, in iTree Eco, you can actually measure this tree crown. So you're going to measure how wide it is and how tall it is, and you're going to make an estimate of how much is missing for those wires going through the middle. In our simplified online tree tools, we just make assumptions of what that crown looks like based on that diameter of breast height, or the tree diameter, the trunk diameter at 4.5 feet. So it's going to be a much simplified guess at what that crown is, and it's not going to know anything about these the wires going through here and that tree being cut out. So you lose some of that precision by kind of making some of these simplifying assumptions. So we also have less specific inputs. So in iTree Eco, you can measure tree health into 5% categories. When we measure them for our online tools, we simplify it down to categories like excellent, good, fair, poor, dead, and dying. So we just kind of lump those together to, again, make it easier for more folks to get introduced to making these tree measurements and estimating ecosystem services. Since we have this kind of limited online platform, you're going to have sort of fewer outputs. We also make some assumptions that in most cases in these online tools, especially with MyTree and iTree Design, we just assume that the trees you're looking at, you want them to live over whatever time you're going to sort of project them out over for. So we kind of make some assumptions about how those trees are going to survive in the landscape. iTree planting, we can actually account for some mortality, but in a tool like iTree Eco, which we'll come back to in the end, you can actually do some pretty complex mortality modeling. So if we really dig into those same key field variables I had in the last slide that we measure on every tree in iTree Eco, we still need DBH and species, but when it comes to these other variables, when we measure them for the online tools for crown measurements, you actually don't need to make any of those measurements for the online tools. We will model them or make assumptions about the size of your tree crown based on that diameter and the species of your tree. For the tree health, like I mentioned, we simplify it down to just a handful of categories from those 5% categories. Building interactions, this is also simplified down into sort of ranges of how far or close your tree is and the direction from the building. And you'll see that as we actually walk through the tools. And light availability, when we do that in iTree Eco, we have 6 categories. When we use it in the online tools, we simplify it down so that it's just full sun, partial, or full shade. So again, we're losing some of that kind of fine detail in those field measurements, just so we can make the tools easier to use and so we can get to ecosystem services. On average, those estimates are going to be just as accurate. It's just for maybe your individual tree. If you've got some special circumstances like this tree here where you're missing sort of the middle of the tree, you're going to be better off accounting for that if that's really important for your project in a tool like iTree Eco. So that's how those simplifications work. That's just one thing to keep in mind when you're trying to decide which tool to use for your specific application. So with that, that's kind of our reorientation to the science of iTree and how our science relates from iTree Eco down to these online tools. And with that, Dave, I can hand it over to you and we can jump right into taking a look at MyTree.
Okay, great. That was a great introduction to all of the tools that we have, and that understanding of sometimes it's a little bit easier to be a generalist than it is to be specific. So I'm going to share my screen right now. I would like to record this. Okay, so sorry everybody. So I'm going to share, and now I'm looking for my PowerPoint, which is open on my screen. Where the heck did it go? It's asking me, Jason, to security screen recording to get permission and start sharing.
I think you can say yes. I think that's just for your end, Dave.
Okay, sorry about this. I went
And we
through
promise not to steal any of your information.
No, I got it. There it is. Okay, because I'm on the Teams one. That's a guest, I think. Okay, so here I am. I'm there, and now I'm going to try to share it again, everybody. Sorry about that.
Nope, that's fine, Dave. We're good.
Yeah. So do we see my my PowerPoint up there or no?
Yep, you got it. You can make it full screen and you're good to go.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about that.
No, it's perfect.
No. So that's why they give me the simple things to do, because MyTree is the easiest of our tools to use, but it is a very powerful analysis tool for everyone. And the idea here is when I say everyone, it means a wide range of users, and we'll introduce you to a few of those in a few seconds. But iTree, it's the first one that's listed on the iTree website. So when you go to itreetools.org, you're going to see tools for assessing individual trees. And the first one you're going to be able to see there is MyTree, and you're just going to have to go ahead and click that, and it will automatically launch on your phone. So there's nothing to download, nothing to do. It's taking it off of the servers and placing it on your phone. The neat thing about it, it's perfectly suited for mobile users or folks on a smartphone or a tablet. And we can look at individual trees or a collection of trees. So, and I think when we laid this out originally, we were using it for a single tree and getting some cool information. But as I've been using it with the different groups that I'll show you, We've been doing collections of trees, you know, up to 20 trees, and it's worked out great. The calculation is very quick and it's on the fly. So it's this adaptable. I teach at the university, so I work all the time with my students, and MyTree is our way that I use to introduce iTree to them, and the whole idea of urban ecosystems and structure, function, and value of our trees. And my students, once they get involved in this, they're sort of hooked, and then we'll start looking at some of the other programs that are a little more robust and accurate, as Jason had talked about. I don't mean accurate, but I mean a little more precise. And the other thing is, you know, I do a lot with school age kids. Like this afternoon after this class, I'm teaching a bunch of fifth grade kids in a program we have called Off to the Great Outdoors. We go out and the kids actually go out, they map, they measure, they weigh, they count. And so last week we were looking at birds, and this week we'll be looking at springtime and the emergence of new things. But one of the key things that we do is we work with iTree and MyTree to get them out there to better understand, and they can actually use these on the tablets that they have at the schools and the after school program that are ruggedized, and the kids take them out and they can work them better than us. And then the other thing is we bring it up. I also do some work with middle and high school age kids. And here's a summer camp that we do in the summer. Those are all high school kids, and helping to teach kids in 7th and 8th grade. So the idea is it can be brought to a multi-level. And then I also do a ton with international users that come up working from the last students that came up were from Morocco and Mexico. So internationally, you can bring it back, and MyTree works internationally. And I know we have a lot of international folks on our sessions today. So MyTree is one of those tools you can use. And then professionals, there's a Davie employee. Believe it or not, that a lot of the Davie folks that are in the field, especially their arborists that work with customers and clients individually, they want a quick assessment of the value of trees on a person's property. And they'll just take MyTree and they can literally have this information available for their customer within a couple minutes. And that's really cool to do it. And so we look at it as a tool for not only exploration and learning, but to bring science to the people. And we all become citizen scientists the minute we start utilizing iTree or MyTree or any of the components of iTree. We're going from just being an individual to become really citizen scientists. So here's the interface that you're likely, and I'm going to breeze through this and I'll take you live in a minute to this, but this is how it's going to look on a smartphone. So it pulls up a map, and in the center of the map is a little tree, and it'll grab your position through the GPS on your phone. And then it comes up, and right in this case here, that was a street in Indianapolis. It's where my brother lives, actually. And so it pulls up the address, and then you can do English units or metric units. And then you have to tell us a little bit about your tree. And it's a tree species, and you can use common or scientific name. Then you tell us a little bit about the condition, the size of the trunk, and if it's in the full sun, shade, or partial shade. And then from there, it asks if you want to measure energy use. So is there a building nearby? In this case, we checked off yes. It was built before 1980, and it's from 0 to 20 feet away from the building. And the estimated compass direction from the tree to the building, in this case, was north. So it's on the south side of the residence. And then from there, it pops up. And in this case here, I did 5 or 6 trees. And so we can calculate all of them or an individual tree as you go through it. So I'm going to take you to this live in a second, but I just want to point out one thing. Let me go here. Okay, so let me go to this video before we go live. And this will be just a quick, it's like a minute and a half video that helps us to understand how we're utilizing this with one particular group. So let's see if this works. Can you hear that and see it? Anybody? Jason, Krista?
We can
I
see it.
can
It's not
see
playing yet,
it.
though.
No,
Yeah,
I just
no,
wanted
it's not.
you see
Okay,
it?
it looks like it
Okay.
might have kicked in.
Yeah, no, okay, good.
MyTree is a free mobile web app that allows people to assess the value of individual trees. The tool can bring an exciting opportunity for students to discover the natural world around them, conduct field research, link to other STEM learning, and contribute to a worldwide citizen science initiative. The application has been developed to aid students in assessing the value and benefits provided by their local trees and producing data analysis reports in a simple, easy-to-read format. Using a smartphone, tablet, or laptop computer, students visit trees within a defined area, i.e. schoolyard, park, etc., and collect information on the type, size, and condition of each tree using simple pull-down menus, and MyTree records the information for review, reporting, and the production of an easy-to-read graphic report. MyTree is quick, easy, and provides a great STEM learning opportunity for students of all levels.
Okay, so I just wanted you to see that one because it goes back to our students. Now, can somebody just let me know if you see the user interface back here again?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to take you quickly over live to see if we can do this. And I'm actually going over to my my smartphone right now. And I pulled up MyTree. So we went to iTree Tools. I could go back, and if I pull down here, you can see project, and I'll go start over. And so what it does, yes, start over. So I actually have a new project in front of me. And then all you do is go get started, and it's going to pull down an address, and I'm going to put in an address that would like to use my current location. I'm going to say allow, and there it is. It's in the building that I'm in right there. Now, and I can have a street view, but that doesn't help us too much. But let's go to satellite. We're going to describe our tree. So we have the location here. And if I go back one, I can move that tree. And I want to look at a tree across the street right here. And so I just click and move the tree. And now I can click here and I can type in what kind of tree is or take a shortcut. In this case here, let's say it's a sugar maple. And so you see sugar maple defaults right there. It's in excellent condition. I can see it out of my window where I am right now. The trunk diameter on this side is 34 inches. And you could also put the circumference if you don't have DBH tapes. And if we need, at some point, maybe we can show you how to make DBH tapes fairly inexpensively with surveying tape. But then the sun exposure, it's full sun in this case, and it's within 50 feet of a building. So how old is this building? Built in the 1800s, okay? It's across the street from the Springfield Armory, commissioned by George Washington. How far are we from the building? 0 to 19 feet, it's just under 20 feet. And then the direction in this case here, it's north. So it's on the south side of the property. And then we're gonna go here and we can either add more trees, get results, but you also have an optional field you can put in here where you can note, Academy, I could type in this, and you just have some way to figure things out. And then it's an existing tree, so I just click that off. And then I go here, add more trees or get results. Oh, yep. And there we are. So my first tree is in there. It's a sugar maple. It's in the Academy. Then I could go add another tree to it. If I need to edit it, I can hit the pencil right there, but we don't have time. So I'm just going to go calculate. So I'll hit my little calculator, and here's my answer. It pops up that quick. So right now, I'm looking at trees now. That sugar maple right now is providing us an estimated this year in 2024 $28.33 in value and benefits, okay? And so you can go through here and you can look at all those benefits that are provided. And it's kind of neat. And if you go read the fine print, it's going to show you all of the science behind this right on the smartphone here. So you have that right there. And then you can always go back and look at the website for more. And if we go here for 20 years, I can look in the tree is going to be providing over the next 20 years $575. And at the same time, we can click on equivalents So if we care and maintenance the trees, it is going to be offset 7,900 miles worth of CO2, enough to fill 1,100 bathtubs, and the pollution and gases particulate form equivalent to the weight of 73 smartphones. So we just want to put it in some kind of simple, easy to understand things, and especially when we're working with the younger audience, they can appreciate this. If you want to save your data, you can go here and you can share it or copy the web page, and you go the URL and you go back there. Or if you hit the mail icon, you can send the thing to yourself, the report. Now, the other thing that you can do is there's always question marks in here. So you can always, and as you went through all the data inputs, there's a question mark everywhere. So the idea is when you look at those question marks, they're going to provide you any guidance that you need as you go through. There's a link here to the main website, and so that's what you're going to get. And I just want to go to one last thing here, and I'll get out of here. I'll stop sharing that. And we're going to go back to, oops. We're going back here, and I'm going to go to, can you see that now? And so when
Looks
you
good,
have the
Dave.
report, okay, so it's going to report out and give you a little tag that looks something like this, and this is what we can forward. It has all those same numbers filled that you can print this out as, save it as a PDF or save it as a, and Jason is going to go in after, and he's going to talk to you about some of the cool things that we do around the world with taking the data from MyTree and then putting it in a way that people can understand it and see it and utilize it. So I'll escape right there, and I'll go back, and what I'll do is on Teams, I just wanted to, if you have questions on it, you can type them in. I haven't looked at the chat, but I'll try to respond to those next. And then Jason is going to be on coming up now, and I think you're going to take us over to iTree Design, the next logical step.
Yes, I got it, Dave. I got it from here.
Okay.
That was fantastic. And thank you, as always, for being one of our our longest standing educator. Dave has been showing people how to use and understand iTree and what it does and what it can share for a very long time. And as you can see, he's even up to speed on how it's been adapted to the computer that you can hold in your hand. So it's mobile, and Dave came right along with us, and it means that he's very intuitive about the ways that bringing these tools to users of all ages, but particularly younger ones, can really go a long way. What I want to do next is shift gears just a little bit. We're going to take a look at iTree Design, which is a tool that works very similarly to it's going to capture the same kind of information that we were hearing Dave tell us about MyTree. It's going to give us a little bit of a more visually dynamic output and interface. But having said that, some of the things that Dave mentioned will be helpful to remember. What we will also see when we open up the tool is access to those menus and resources and descriptions, right? So anytime you see a question mark in this tool, you'll be able to find out more. But iTree Design is like MyTree. It's a very simple online tool. It lets you estimate tree benefits for individual trees, including multiples, and at the parcel level. This is also incorporating that map interface so that you can directly place your trees by accessing your area or your address. So again, this is a Google Map interface. It lets you, see and change your tree selection. It's going to ask you for your tree size. It's going to look at the species in order to determine the impacts on ecosystem benefits. It really brings this concept of tree benefits, though, and again, what I'm calling this parcel scale is really at the, at the level of your house, at the level of a location, whether or not that's a school, whether it's a business. It can help take it to that level that makes it more personal, right? It's going to be a place that you recognize. And if you're sharing this information to advocate for tree care, it puts somebody right on the ground where your tree is. So this can be really helpful for encouraging communities to consider investing in trees and to understand how management of trees can actually act as an asset. Design can be used to simulate tree planting scenarios. And if you're, interested in having someone see that as a tree matures, it's going to provide more benefits over time. And here again, this can be an effective strategy if you're trying to advocate for planting projects or proper tree selection and planting techniques. And again, that placement and tree maintenance and care. Now, we are going to hear from, after we look at design, we'll look at planting, which can do all of these things at a larger capacity. So keep in mind that some of the considerations for design is that it is a little bit limited to smaller scale projects. It's not going to be able to import an entire inventory that you already have. And this is not a tool that will allow you to export your data, but it does, having said that, it does present one of the nicer reports and thorough reports that iTree makes available. So thinking about those considerations, can also say that design in and of itself can be used on a mobile device. If you're going to check it out on something like a tablet, test it first. It's probably something where you want a little bit more room than you might get on your phone. But again, this is something that is compatible with from your browser on any mobile device. And again, the reports can be printed, they can be viewed and shared and write as a PDF document. It is possible in design to save a project, to share that project, and to go back to it and make adjustments or edits. So having said that, the only final consideration I want to share with everybody is that it can, as you are incorporating different trees and in different locations, this is a tool that's also going to allow you to outline specific buildings that you want taken into consideration for those energy benefits. And as it does that, this is one of our senior tools, is what I like to call design. It is going to process all of that information. It can be delayed occasionally if a lot of people are using it at one time, or if, again, it tends to be a matter of demand, and if you are trying to incorporate a lot of structures and information. But having said that, what you're going to get at the end is a report that quantifies this information. Again, what we'll see in design are these 4 core ecosystem services that we've been discussing, and those will be reflected within your project. Again, these aren't all of the benefits that we know trees provide, but as the ones that we can estimate in the most straightforward way. It's one of the ways that this becomes an easy access tool for seeing this information about your trees. So what I want to go ahead and do now is take us to iTree Design, and you can access iTree Design right from our website. On our front page, we can see each of the tools. And design is going to open up, again, it's going to ask you for many of the same things that MyTree was looking for. And just as a refresher, there are several different ways that you can access help and other resources for how to use these tools. Under this project area, you'll see that it gave me an option to load an existing project should I have one ready. And that's just to show you where that sits, again, as a tool that can take projects that you've already worked on, and you can save them and share them. But simply what I'm going to do is start out by searching for an address. I'm going to go to a place that's not too far from me here in Philadelphia. And we're going to find, it's going to take me there on the map, again, showing me the satellite image. I can navigate around using the grab tools and the zooming in or zooming back out. So a couple of things are in place over here in the navigation. the first thing you're actually going to do, as opposed to placing your trees, it's going to ask you regarding those energy benefits you might want to see. What's going on with the buildings? Are these trees near a structure so that we can calculate those energy benefits? So in this case, I'm going to say yes. And this is straightforward. It can take a little bit of practice, but by grabbing this polygon tool, it's going to let you draw a structure. And if this isn't something you've done before, it's done by clicking. And in this instance, it's assuming you're going to, again, it's drawing a polygon for you. So once you've taken, you can be as specific or as generic on this as you would like. So for example, if I wanted to be more specific about this porch, I could even do my little cutout over here. But again, you want to double click when you're finished. The window that opens is going to ask me a little bit more about this building. And the reason it wants to know approximately how old it is because that will impact assumptions about the efficiency of the insulation and the heating that is available. So again, I want to indicate if the structure is regularly heated and if it's air conditioned. And I realize that in some cases that might seem like an odd question. It's hard to imagine places that don't have that don't have air conditioning. But actually in Philadelphia, it's not uncommon at all to have older homes that are not air conditioned. I will leave those at the defaults for yes for now. And if I wanted to draw these other houses, I could do that. I can take this even broader and I could, look at an entire block, such as the case may be. But I'm going to focus on just this one parcel, this one property for now. I'll move to the next step of placing my trees. So again, it's going to ask us to describe the species of the tree. In this case, we're going to look at 2 of the eastern hemlocks that surround this house. Hemlocks happen to be one of my favorites, but especially in this area of Pennsylvania, they are pretty overwhelmingly impacted by a pest known as woolly adelgid. And it can be challenging to help these trees thrive. They can be treated, however. So for example, if I want to say that these trees are reasonably mature, I'm going to go with 13 inches for one. I'm going to say that they're both in good shape. I neglected to, what you're seeing that is now being added to the structure that we've built, it's considering for this particular species and as it's thinking about the assumed size of this tree, given its diameter and its condition, where might be the most energy saving locations for this tree. So again, the darker green is more desirable in this instance, and yellow is going to be that southern, in this case, it's that southern facing location where we're not going to see as many of the intensity of the sun is definitely going to be a little bit stronger from that angle. I'm going to stick with full sun, and I'm going to just let everybody know that if you wanted to switch out the currency in your report, you can do that if it's available. And then I can do what's called modeling crown growth for these trees. I'll do that in a minute. But now that I have filled out the relevant information, I need to return to the map and place this tree. And now I can see the like this energy benefit scale. And by using the little spider web, I can toggle that off. It's just going to make it easier for me to see these trees. And I'm going to click and drag this tree in order to place this first hemlock, which is over here. And it's going to confirm the information that I provided for this tree. I'm going to say OK. And actually, what I'm going to go ahead and do is add another one. I know that there is a partner hemlock on the front other side of this house. So I'm just going to leave all of that information in this case the same, but be aware that if I wanted to come over here and indicate that I've got these Japanese maples and what I think might be some London plane trees over here towards the street side, I could add several of those as well. But for now, just for the sake of demonstration, I want to let everybody know to take a look at the crown growth modeler. Again, this is assuming that if these trees are maintained throughout the next however many years, so you can see that this goes up to 50 years. It's assuming within relation to the structure what you can expect to see for the growth of the crown on this tree. So now that I have placed everything that I'm interested in taking a look at, I can estimate these benefits. And design is going to say to me, okay, how many years out do you want to consider? We will show you what the benefits and the value that they're providing right now. We can also do that for 25 years out or more. It's up to if you wanted to look much further or if you were interested in looking at a shorter time frame, those are options as well. Before I leave this particular map, though, when we calculate our benefits, I wanted to show you that you can come back to the information about each of your trees. And if you wanted to delete and enter different information for that tree, this is where you would do that. The same is also available for your structures, and it can remind you what information you entered for everything that you're looking at. And I know I'm going through this pretty quickly, but what we're going to do is come back to later on. Again, we're going to wrap up today by looking at how to think about the results that we get from these different tools and why that means one or another might be stronger for the project you have in mind. So again, the considerations for design is that it is going to be, it's going to struggle to do more than say, 100 trees plus structures. You can get a really nice look, and again, that nicely visualized look by using this tool. And again, you can see that it did those 2 trees and that 1 house pretty rapidly. If you were to do, 4 or 5 additional trees around that house, you would really start to get a nice snapshot. But you can toggle around to the different tabs that this report offers. Again, this is something where we can look at all of the trees together, or if we just wanted to look at the trees individually, we can look at different ecosystem services. And again, those core benefits differently from the perspective of this design report. And keep in mind that it's going to give you really nice descriptions too about why these things can be, these energy benefits, where they come from and why they can be important and how they're valued. The same is true for air quality and for carbon in and of itself. And again, we can come to the secondary series of tabs to walk through what we can see in the present day, as well as modeling out those benefits for the years that we've calculated out. In this case, we went for 25 years. And it can also do that again. So for 25 years, it's going to continue to show us, it's going to update those benefits. Again, remember that under your project, this is a report that you can save. Either you can save it as a PDF, you can do that by choosing the print option. But again, this is also a project you can save, so that if you wanted to send this to somebody to pull up in design on their own, that's something that they would be able to do. So with that, I'm actually going to stop and pass this back to Jason, who is going to take us into iTree planting, which is what we want to use if we're looking to do this on a larger scale.
Perfect. Thanks, Krista. Yeah, so I'm just going to jump right into a demo of iTree planting. So you'll see that there are a lot of parallels to the other online tools we've talked about so far. And these are online tools. So I know we had a question in the chat about if these were apps. And they're not apps that will be available in the App Store. But if you have a web browser on whatever device you're using and you're connected to the internet through Wi-Fi or data plan, you can use any of these tools. And the reason we do that is so that we don't have to have a specific app developer for iPhones and another one for Androids, and then to maintain 2 different versions in 2 different app stores would just take time away from us developing the tools and making them easier to use in more places. So that's why we focused on doing the web-based tools. So yes, I'm going to jump into iTree planting here. So I'm at our homepage, itreetools.org. And if we scroll down, we get to our tree planting tools, and that's where we find iTree planting. And I'm going to use an example from local to me again. So the place where I actually sit is in the Pennsylvania Horticulture Society. In their offices, they give us some desk space. Krista's in that space as well. And they do a lot of tree planting within the city of Philadelphia. So they do a lot of street tree planting. And the planting that they do is often funded in part by our local energy company, which is PECO, our power company. So they wanted to report out to PECO the benefits of the trees that PECO was helping to fund get planted as street trees in the city. So I actually have a list of what their street trees were. And this is from 2021. I'll see if I can stick this next to my iTree planting window here. So this is just their planting list. So this is the species they planted, and this is the number of trees they planted. So from that species list, we can enter that information into iTree planting, and we can see the benefits that these trees are going to provide. So let me see if I can orient this a little bit so that we can see both of these things side by side here. So this is our iTree planting window. Again, it's web-based, and I'm going to click on our Get Started button here. Just like all the other tools, it wants to know where we are. That's how it gets local weather and pollution and precipitation data. So this is, most of their plantings are in the city of Philadelphia. So I'm just going to select from these drop downs. This tool, like iTree Design, is only available in the States, in the US. We do have within this, you could select US national averages. So if you are outside the US and you want to do iTree planting, but kind of use our averages across the whole country, you could do that. If you're outside the US, you could also try to select proxy locations. So if you're in a drier area, maybe you want to select somewhere like the desert Southwest. If you're somewhere more tropical, you could try selecting Florida or Hawaii. So there are ways to sort of get around that, but this information is going to be localized to places in the US in iTree Design and iTree planting. So I have my location. I can go ahead and hit next. And now I want some basic input parameters. If you have these, you can change these electricity emissions factors. So this gets back to that building energy use and how much pollution is created by using energy in your home, whether it's for heating or cooling. These are all localized as well. So we have a database from the Department of Energy that will provide different values for different locations, but sometimes you may have your own values depending on where you are. But the interesting part to me here is that in this tool, it wants to know how long we're going to project our planting over time. And it also wants to know the tree mortality. So this is something we haven't had in any of those other tools, but at what rate are our trees going to die? So for this Pennsylvania Horticulture project, they wanted to do just 20 years. These are street trees. They know street trees are under a lot of stress, don't live for a super long amount of time. And then they want to put in a mortality rate. This 3% that we put in here is an average that we are pretty confident in, and you can actually switch whether you want this to be an annual rate or over the project lifetime, and it'll actually calculate that. So you can see if we leave it at 3% over 20 years, we're going to lose about 46% of our trees. So this mortality information can actually be really powerful when you start to think about how you maintain trees. So once we plant these trees, what can we do to keep them up longer, keep them more healthy so that we have a lower mortality rate so that we're better able to reach the goals for our tree planting. So in this case, I'm going to go with a little more generous mortality rate of just 1.5%. We know that they have a lot of infrastructure in place to take care of newly planted trees. So their mortality rate is a little lower. And you can see that then our project lifetime mortality rate goes down to about 26%. If you're ever looking for what type of mortality rate to use, paper that I really like is this published paper here from Deb Hilbert, which is a summary of urban tree mortality. So it actually has rates from a whole bunch of different studies on street trees and yard trees and the ranges that you might see for mortality rates there. So it's a really great spot to look if you don't know where to start, if you don't want to use our default mortality rate of 3%. It can give you some insight, and maybe Anna can drop a link to that into the chat if you're interested. So from there, we can finally hit next, and you can see we're just moving across these tabs on the top here. If you wanted to go back and change your location, you can just click on that location tab. You can always jump between those tabs. And now this looks more or less like a spreadsheet, and we can just enter in our data. You can switch between units here. As with iTree Design and MyTree, you can switch between English and metric units. We can do common names or scientific names. I'll go ahead and switch to scientific names since that's what I have in my spreadsheet over here. And we just need to enter in what we have. So in this case, we have this Sergeant Cherry, and that's going to be Prunus. And you start typing, and you just have to pick from our list. This list is over 8,000 trees or 8,000 different species. So it might be in there, the tree you're looking for. They plant relatively large trees. We only go down to an inch because that's where our science is sort of limited to. But their trees are a little bit bigger, so they want to say they're 1.5 inches when they plant them. And energy effects. They didn't actually measure the distance and direction of these trees to buildings. But since they're reporting out to the power company, they're kind of interested in those types of results. So they want to put something in here that's a little conservative. And if you think back to kind of that iTree Design web of energy benefits that Krista showed a few minutes ago, we're going to go with something like relatively far from the building, because then you get typically lower benefits. And we'll just leave it at north, because that's where we get relatively sort of in the middle level of benefits. If you wanted, you could go ahead and do this same species of tree, and you could plant it north and south and east and west and average those results, or you could just put a certain number of trees at each one if you wanted. But in this case, we'll just stick with this because it's relatively conservative. If you don't want to estimate energy benefits at all, you just put it farther than 60 feet, and the tool will assume that it's not having an impact on heating or cooling of that building. We'll leave this as built after 1980. That's kind of the median age of houses in Philly. And it does have heating and cooling. Most houses do, but as Krista mentioned, some definitely do not. For condition, we'll put good. These are planted in tree pits, so they're not going to be, never going to be excellent for their entire lives. So we'll stick with good. And again, they're street trees, so they're probably going to be shaded by a building or by other trees to some extent. So we'll put partial sun. And the last thing here, which is different in iTree planting versus those other tools, is that it wants to know how many of these trees we have. Since we're doing a planting, we have a planting list here. So we have 73 of these Sergeant Cherries. So we can go ahead then and hit this plus button and enter our next tree. I'm just going to skip down here just to show you real quick. We can also do up to the genus level. So things like apple species, it can be really hard to tell which species is which, and that's what our Malus species is here. So there can be lots of different types of crab apples. So we can just type that Malus, and it's just going to give us just that genus category. So if you don't want to identify all the way down to species, oftentimes you can stop at that genus category. And we could enter in the same information. And we could keep doing this for our whole tree list. Within iTree Planting, you can save these projects. When you're typing them in here, they're just in your browser cache. So I recommend saving typically like every 25 or 50 species groups you put in here. More or less what you're willing to lose if you lose your internet or your computer turns off for some reason. But you can save those under here, and you can load those projects back in at any point in time. So if I hit next here, it would go ahead and generate my report. Instead of doing that, I went ahead and entered in all these trees from this species list. So I have the whole report for all of the street trees from 2021 from that Pennsylvania Horticulture Society project. And this is what the report looks like. So we're on the report tab now. And it summarizes our input data. A cool new thing that we've just added within the last 2 or 3 months is this tree growth tab. So it actually tells us if we started with this hedge maple and it was 1.5 inches and we grew it out over that 20 years, we estimate that at the end of that time, it's going to be at 7.2 inches, and we give a height. We had that mortality rate in there, so it's going to tell us how many of those trees survive till the end of the growth period, and give us some other parameters about the tree, even things like canopy cover. So if you had goals to increase canopy cover based on these plantings, you can get an estimate of what that looks like from iTree Planting, and it's going to give you a total down here for their street trees. Over the next 20 years, we have about 84,000 square feet of canopy added. That sort of assumes that there's no overlap between the tree crowns. So that's about 2 acres. So, you can report out that type of thing. And then it has each of our ecosystem services, our core ecosystem services that we have used in all the other tools as well. So all those are reported here. And down the bottom, we even have a nice graph that shows how those change over time. And you can export this graph. So if you just want this graph, you can download it as an image that you could insert into whatever presentation you're trying to put together, or however you're trying to communicate that. You can also export this whole table. So if you want this table as a spreadsheet, you can click on this export button. It's going to actually export everything in all of those tabs, all of the green tabs. So you get all of that information in one spreadsheet, and it's going to export all the data necessary to make this graph. So if you want how much energy am I saving at year 1, at year 2, that'll be in that export as well. So all that information comes from iTree Planting. So for me, it's a super nice way to estimate the benefits of tree planting projects, getting up to hundreds or thousands of trees that are planted in a really quick, nice, compact interface. So just to kind of bring this back around to, how are these tools used and how do we decide which tools to use? I just want to go through a couple sort of real quick examples of each of these tools. So MyTree, the most common uses are really education. So if you're talking to students or really anybody and trying to educate them on the benefits of trees, trying to engage new audiences, show them the trees have benefits, or really just trying to connect people to the benefits of the trees around them. For me, iTree or MyTree is really, if you're standing under a tree and you want to show someone those benefits, or you want them to be able to see the benefits for themselves, that's the time to pull out your phone and use MyTree. So it's great for that. It's great to engage folks. Dave mentioned that you can make your own DBH tapes. So that's measuring that tree diameter at 4.5 feet above the ground. Real simple with just some flagging here. You can have students kind of mark out the inches on those, and they can measure the circumference or the diameter of those trees. That's a great activity. We've got other activities for education up on the website if you want to check those out. And we'll put a link in with the Academy webpage to some of those as well. And if you ever see these tree tags, or if you want to make tree tags of your own, MyTree is a great tool to do that. You can say over the next 20 years, these are the benefits, and you can get that out of MyTree really fast. We have some templates that you can also use. This is a template that Dave actually put together and is on the UNRI website. And there's a link in this presentation to that, and we'll put this presentation up on the website so you can grab that link as well if that's something you're interested in. And there are folks doing other interesting things with these, putting together tree tags, making things like tree trails. So this would be a trail where you have tags along the trail. This is from a partner of ours, Jenny Garden down in Australia. She puts these tree trails together. You can follow the map, see the different species of trees, the different sizes, and their benefits as you walk along following the tree trail map, with all these benefits estimated from MyTree. So the strengths of MyTree, it's super simple to use. It's created with mobile devices in mind. So if you're going to use a mobile device, it's great for that. The outputs with that nutrition label are really easy to understand, and you can get to results in just a couple minutes. And that 20-year projection is really nice for if you're starting with small trees, showing that they have those benefits over time. Some of these limitations came up in the chat, but you can't save projects. If you start to get up over 10 or so trees, it can get a little tedious to enter those on your phone, especially since you can't save them and can't really keep them. And it does require you to have internet on your device. Potential features that might be coming down the road. We have the ability to capture all the data that people submit. So we're working on potentially putting those on a map and making it so that folks who do maybe a group project where everybody's collecting data for a certain park, they could pull that data out. So keep an eye out for those things maybe in the future. iTree Design common uses. It's great for property owners where you can show them the trees around their own homes. It's got those really nice visuals. Any of those outputs that Krista showed or the map, if you right click on those, you can copy it as a picture and paste it anywhere you want. So it's really nice to create results from those really nice images that are in iTree Design, or I'm sorry, in iTree Design. It's nice for landscape architects. If they want to plan planting trees around a building, they can see the benefits sort of in real time as they're planning, and they can do scenarios. So if I plan on the north side, if I plan a windbreak, where's the best place to put that for energy benefits? Another example here, this is in Grand Rapids, Michigan. This is a road here called Anchester Drive. These are ash trees on either side of the road. And the city, Grand Rapids, was preemptively going around and taking out all the ash trees in the city, all the street trees, because they were all going to die to emerald ash borer. The homeowners on this street got together and said, well, we've got all these ash trees, almost 40 ash trees up and down the street. Let's put those in MyTree Design, see the benefits to our homes. And what they came up with was that those trees are going to provide about $70,000 worth of benefits over the next 20 years. So these homeowners got together and said, you know, we're going to pay to protect these trees, to treat them so they're not susceptible to emerald ash borer. And they got the city to allow them to keep the trees on their street by showing these results and by being willing to, once they saw these results, to care for those trees. Lastly, as far as strengths and limitation, the visuals are great in MyTree Design. The shareable report, the fact that you can save and print that report is really nice, and that interactive evaluation with the web of benefits can be really informative as well. It's limited to a handful of buildings and a few dozen trees, so it takes a little more time when you go past that. Upcoming features, Krista mentioned that this is a little bit of an older tool, so we are working on modernizing it and sort of expanding that capacity to have more trees and more buildings. So the last tool, MyTree Design, MyTree Planting, as it says in the name, it's great for planting projects. So if you're starting out with new trees, you want to grow them over time, you can enter in a whole bunch of trees really quickly. It's already accepted for things like carbon accounting and LEED certification of landscapes. It's great for funding requests. So if you want funding for tree planting, you can project the benefits of your project over time and put these into your funding requests. So it's also really great for sustainability impact reporting. So this is what that Pennsylvania Horticulture Society project looks like. They actually did it over 3 years, 2019 to 2021. PECO, the power company, puts in $300,000, and it leads to 18,000 trees planted. And these are the benefits. Essentially, the return on investment, return on PECO's investment, is $940,000 based on their $300,000 investment over the next 20 years. So it's a really nice way to communicate those sorts of return on investment ideas around tree planting. So MyTree Planting can be really powerful in that way. And just to sort of sum up, just comparing these three tools in case you have to make this decision. MyTree, it's great for groups. If you've got a group of students or a group of folks you're introducing to tree benefits, it can be great to stand out there in a park, everybody with their phones talking about the benefits of trees. Super simple to use, great on a mobile device, and great for education settings. That MyTree Design has those visuals if you need to save a project or if you want to connect homeowners to trees in their own landscapes. It's great for that type of practical application. It's great if you've got multiple buildings and a few dozen trees. And it's really nice because you can show people kind of their exact property and the trees they have around them. MyTree Planting, again, it's great for planting projects. If you're trying to grow trees over time and you're starting with small trees and you've got hundreds or thousands of trees, you can really quickly get to those ecosystem services. It's really nice for things like carbon accounting or reporting on funding or grant requests. And it's can really be convenient on a desktop or laptop. And in the future, we are going to work on potentially getting importing of data. So if you've already got your data in that spreadsheet format, you can readily import it into MyTree Planting. So that's something to keep an eye out for in sort of coming years, coming updates to the MyTree program. And with that, I know I'm 2 minutes over time. I just want to encourage folks, check out the Academy webpage. We do have these self-directed homework exercises. So if you want to try any of the tools, we give you a few things to look at when you open those tools. If you want to start to compare things like, hey, what happens if I put healthy trees into MyTree Design versus trees that are going to be in poorer health? And how can I maybe use that to make the case for taking better care of my trees and getting more benefits out of them over time? There are things like that in the homework, and it helps you guide you through some of that thinking and how you might want to approach those issues. So with that, Krista and the rest of the team, I can wrap up here, and we will stick on for our few minutes of overtime questions.
Overtime. No, really nicely done, Jason. Thank you. And I could tell that even for the last few minutes, we've had a lot of people stick with us for the wrap up, and I'm grateful. I know that it's hard to crunch that within the last few minutes, we always try to give ourselves some breathing room, but we're also trying to cover, comprehensively as much as we can on these individual tree tools, and putting it all together at the end and identifying that context directly applies to some of the questions we could see about limitations. People understand that planting is going to do the individual tree benefits on that larger scale, but also, okay, is there a limit? And what about the spreadsheet? So some of the things that,
Sure.
you were anticipating, just like how many trees, and hopefully some people have also, been encouraged to explore the different, they're starting to think about which tools are going to be most appropriate for whatever project it is they have in mind. And sometimes the answer is, well, actually, the best tool for you might not be one that we've gotten to yet. But yes, and thank you for the plug on, trying out the exercise. Again, we went through a lot of information today, and the best way to familiarize yourself with what these tools offer and how that information looks is to go ahead and give them a try.